Hey guys, pretty keen for this conversation. Jumping on live tonight with Jeffrey Slayter. Jeffrey's a coach, international speaker, best-selling author, and he is a pretty intriguing, magical human that I've worked with for 2011. So really keen to jump in with some questions. I've got a bunch of questions, but if you guys have questions, pop them in the comments below. Hey Jeff, how you doing tonight?
Hello, Sam. It's good to be
Yay.
on.
I'm so glad to have you on. Um, I was pretty intrigued with I can ask you anything, and I'm really keen to see what other questions people might have for you as well. So, um, should we aim to be appropriate or not? I just thought I'd start with the
Well, people can ask anything, whether I answer it or not
okay,
is always our choice, right, in life. So let's see what we got. And
for
it's good to be
sure,
on,
for
Sam. So
sure.
thank you.
Yeah. So I shared like a micro intro of you as a speaker, coach, author. Um, how did you get into speaking?
I was. I have a couple answers. One, I learned to speak. Actually, it's a funny story. I was. I had this inkling that I loved to share a message, and I was. There was. I've never really told the story actually. I was young. Must have been like 13 or 14, and there was this project I wanted to do to raise money, and I went out into my backyard and I grabbed a video camera at the time. It was a really old video camera, and I set up a camera, and I set up the camera, and I was like, I'll be back. I'm just gonna film a quick video about trying to raise money for this cause. I don't even remember what it was, and I stood in front of the camera and I had nothing to say, literally nothing to say, there was something inside me that knew that this is what I was here to do, was to share a message, but I had nothing to say in front of this camera at all, and I was just dumbfounded. But I knew I had to close that gap between finding what I had to say and actually saying it, so knowing there was something inside of me to say, and then actually bringing it out. And it was, and now I can actually talk, and now I'm speaking. So it was
Yeah.
amazing how it works. But in all seriousness, there's people probably listening to this that have a message, and they want to share that message, and it just takes practice over and over again. And if I could find that video, I would, but it was pretty embarrassing at the time.
So what was that? Like you said, about
That
10,
was like that was about
13,
13 years
13,
old.
about
Yeah,
13.
my parents still laugh about it today.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Love everyone jumping on. So at 13, you were like, I'm going to be a speaker.
It kind of went like, the real moment it hit me was when I was attending another seminar. I must have been 19 years old, and I saw this guy on stage. He was dressed in all black, and there was room about 140 people, and he was very inspiring. And I said, I want to do that. I want to inspire people and have a lot of fun, and I chose to do it. And years later, it happened. So I feel very grateful, but it wasn't easy at all.
Awesome. Um, and what do you think the biggest gift? Because this is the thing. I know you from speaking at events, and I've seen you in like small groups, deal making. I've seen you raising funds for like the water towers in the Amazon. I've seen, you with the thousands and thousands in the room. And, I've seen you teaching coaching and transfer. Like I've seen you do everything and the range that you have. Like, so my question is, what's the biggest gift of that?
The biggest gift is learning from my audiences and the people I connect with. And I and they show me parts of myself that I've yet to include in my experience of myself. And I would say that my audiences are my biggest gift.
Oh,
Yeah, actually, there was a speaker who he didn't know it was his last day, and he was he had a book to sell, and he was speaking at this event, and like someone went up and bought his book, and it was like in $20-$30 or something, and he just started kind of like tearing up because he was so grateful for people buying his book and his message, and uh, and he just was so grateful for every person who bought his book. And then at the end, there was one person who bought his book, and he just was like, "Thank you so much for buying my message and buying my book, and letting it touch your life." And that speaker actually passed away that night, and and it all kind of made sense. They're our biggest gift. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I should live till tomorrow, so that's not like, I think I'm gonna make it. So, I know there's like an event coming up, so I will
You
be
wanted
there if
to
I don't die.
you want a teary moment just in case.
Yeah, it was a teary moment, and it's important. One thing I've experienced through this journey of working with over 1 million people is the gift of every person that I connect with, good and bad. There's some people that I just are frustrating to me, and some people that I'm really grateful for. And it's just life. It's a journey of exploration of life. I guess I'm an explorer of so
Yeah.
many experiences, and I think many other people are as well.
Definitely a good word. There's so many people jumping on saying hi. So hi
Hi,
everyone.
hi,
I
hi.
probably won't interrupt Jeff's flow all the time to keep saying hi back, but my heart's saying hi as we go through. So in terms of speaking and training and being out there in the world with a message, has that changed? Like, how's that changed over the since you started?
How I say it changes.
Okay.
Um, and I think the message has always been similar deep down. There's been blocks between me and my own message to myself.
Yeah.
And over time, I think I've at chipped away and discovered more about who I am and who I'm not. And the way I discovered who I'm not is by looking at what the things that don't resonate with me. And I think it was I don't remember the speaker, but he shared he said that a lot of finding out what's important in your life is finding out what you don't like and what you aren't, and that'll discover you through doing that you'll discover who you are. And so it's been my discovery of discovering who I'm not, and it's been quite an interesting discovery. Along the way, it's been quite incredible. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I will probably continue to make mistakes. I'm okay with being perfectly imperfect, and I think that a lot of people they tend to want to share a message in the world or make an impact in the world, and they want to get it perfect before they ever get started. And it's my hope that I can inspire others to be perfectly imperfect in their being human and share whatever they're here to share. I guess I say this in some other videos, we're all like notes in a song, and each of us have to play our note. And when we do that, we sing a song, and that song is a song back to ourselves, each one of us, and each of us are an important role. And so I'm just playing my part.
Yeah, for sure. So do you think it's easier for someone to get started speaking and sharing a message now than it was when you started?
Yeah, there wasn't even Facebook when I started. I don't think it was just
Oh my
starting or something.
God.
I know, and the web was just getting going, and so I would say it's easier now, but there's a lot more noise in the marketplace, which is totally fine. And the way you so-called compete is by being yourself, because there's no one else that is like who's listening to this or who's on this, or we're each like snowflakes, made of the same substance but different patterns. And
Yeah.
so if everyone just can be themselves, then there's no competition. There's just yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, I've got so many questions. I went and
Just
made
lay
an
them out. It's all good.
amazing list of questions. So as well as speaking, one of the things that I love, like, because like what you're just saying about it, it can be the biggest catalyst for change and like transformation. To speak up and to be that vulnerable and to bring yourself and share. Like speakers are constantly throwing themselves in the fire a bit like that. Um, and so what's that link between transformation and that willingness to keep showing up to share a message? Like, how important is being able to transform and work on yourself?
It depends what the person's committed to. Myself, I'm committed to transformation, even if I'm not liked.
Yeah.
I used to want to be liked by everybody, and but I started to not like myself, and I'm more committed to the results of people's lives and then being liked. And I still like to be liked. It's nice when people like me, but I've danced with that quite a bit and found that my commitment to transformation and my commitment to people having the lives they love is more important than being liked.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're really good at holding that space of intensity, sort of saying what needs to be said that probably no one's saying to them. They're
Thank you.
not
Yeah,
saying to
and
themselves.
it and that's something that is a tribute to the people that I'm usually working with, is that they're
Yeah.
willing to be with the intensity to shift their life, because they're more committed to shifting their life, to having the life they want, than being scared or backing down from the intensity itself.
Yeah. Um,
Do you want to? I got a llama picture. Woo! So cool.
well, I was gonna ask, like, do you have llama pants on tonight? But then I
Oh
thought
yeah,
maybe we start with, do you have pants on? But that's okay. Do you have the llama pants on tonight,
I
or is
have
it just
pants
the
on.
picture?
Oh no, just a picture. I'm just featuring different things. No, I'm really dressed up tonight. I have a collared shirt. We're rocking it. This is a
Legit,
professional setting.
legit, and professional.
Always professional, whatever that is. I think that's something that I think that we're moving into more unconventional thinking, so that we can create more unconventional results in people's lives. I know for myself, I love unconventional conversations. That's why I actually appreciate talking with you, Sam, because you always are willing to have unconventional conversations, and it brings out unconventional responses and then unconventional insights, and that leads to unconventional results. And I love it. So I'm grateful for. I'm
Awesome.
just excited to be talking with you.
And so, the most unconventional leaders you've worked with or got to experience, what do they have in common?
Empathy
Yep.
and self-awareness, and their commitment to increase self-awareness. So increase self-awareness. And when I say empathy, I mean they actually care about themselves and the people around them. And they may not always be perceived that way, because often they can be misunderstood. But I know deep down in some of these private conversations that the ones I really enjoy working with are quite unconventional in their empathy towards themselves and others, and they have a relentless commitment to transformation, and they do this through their businesses and their projects. And I absolutely love working with people like them, because it's so inspiring. It inspires me to continually do the deep inner work on myself, and then so I can serve others even more.
Yep. We got a question from the audience, which was, tell us about your love of llamas. Where does that come
Oh,
from?
I actually came from.
That's from Jessica Palmer.
I was really entertained by the movie Napoleon Dynamite, when Tina spit on, when he's like, "Eat your food, Tina," and I don't know. I thought that was really funny. And then I went to the Andes Mountains. I took a group of incredible people to the Andes, and we were deep in the Andes Mountains, and there's incredible llamas there, and I just like them. I think they're curious little animals, not little but big, I guess. But really, I guess it really started when I was gifted some by my friend Marina. She has these two incredible daughters, and they love to give gifts, and they're like, "We got a gift for you. We got a gift for you," and I'm like so excited, and Marina's like, "My children, they love to give gifts, so just receive it, okay?" And then we went to the room, and they kind of revealed it, and they were so excited. They were like kids at Christmas, they were giving a gift, but they were excited they were almost as excited as receiving a gift to give a gift. And I think that was a
Yeah.
lesson for me. I was like, wow, they're more excited to give than to receive. And so they pulled out these, they actually pulled out that picture right there.
Yeah.
Featured in
Picture.
so many
The
talks,
picture.
Yeah. And they pulled that out, like, look what we got you. And I was like, yes, that is awesome. I had no idea it'd be such a big part of my life. And then they got me these llama slippers, and they got me a llama notepad, and then I was equipped up and ready for the world. And so I guess I was given the tools by 11-year-olds, and then I was off into the races and prepared for the world to take on the masses.
For sure. Um, oh, that's one of the things I love about you too. Is just like there's so many people would be hung up on the way things look, or what they what other people perceive, like how they dressed or what they wore or what they whatever, and that you can lean into so much of that and just play. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I used to wear a suit and tie on stage all the time, and and that was fun. And now I'll wear a jacket. And I haven't worn a tie in a while, but
it's
I
the
think it's
pink
fun to just
shirts you meant to wear on
yeah
stage, isn't
yeah.
it?
I used to wear pink shirts and like really nice cufflinks and everything, and that was fun. And now I'm kind of come full circle, where sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. But it was I think a lot of the need to dress up was a need to please, and now it's just what's serving the message at the time, and
Yeah.
that's more important to me. And sometimes the message, like one talk I just gave, it was about 100 and I don't know 130 people recently. It was at the Conscious Leaders event. Actually, great group of people, a lot of fun, and and I was speaking at their group, and I just decided to wear a flower jumpsuit because that would be fun because they were a fun audience, you know, and that was really fun, and I enjoyed myself quite a bit. And they're a fun group, and so I decided that would be appropriate to wear. And sometimes I'll wear a jacket and dress up, and sometimes I won't. And now it's about being able to just enjoy
So,
enjoy wearing what you want when you want, you know.
so you never know. It could be the llama suit onesie, or it could be
Could be
fully
anything.
dialed,
It could
and
be anything.
yeah.
It's like life. At any moment, it could change.
Sure, surely can. Um, so at the moment, like I've seen so much light and play and joy in you. Like, how often do you have like dark times where you need to? What's that like for you? How often does that happen?
Not as often anymore, but I've definitely had my fair share of hard times and dark times. The
Yeah,
dark times are necessary to find to polarize again. To it's the polarity of life, right? So I don't see them as dark times anymore. I see them as times.
yeah,
And but how often? I don't know. I'm not really calculating the dark and the light times. But from my analysis, if I would do one right now, I'd say it's more more fun. I think I'm okay with there's a lot of medicine in darkness. Not like it's
yeah,
enjoyable all the time,
yeah,
but everything passes. Is a lesson I've learned in my journeys and my experiences, that everything passes, light and dark, uh,
yeah,
and and maybe they're the same. I don't know.
yeah. It's a bit like that, like the waves, like the peaks and the valley. Like it just has its
Yeah,
own flow, sort of thing.
yeah.
But
You know,
that,
it's a lot
yeah,
like there's Jeff Brown. He wrote a book called Grounded Spirituality, and I used to be very much achievement oriented to get to the top, like to go to the top of the mountain,
to
and
peak.
yeah, the peak. That's whatever that is, right? And yeah, to
It's the
peak.
very
And
important
so
part.
right, and and I realized that that's kind of a one-way thing, like going like that. But it's so fun to explore the whole valley and to enjoy the journey along the way and the entire valley itself. There's so many different crevices and places to go and to learn, and there's streams and there's different creatures and different
Sounding very sexual,
experiences.
but I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole
Wait,
time
wait, there.
stay a virgin because it's the pure thing to do.
Uh, um, they're kind of like initiations, right? Some of those dark
Yeah,
places is more of an initiation than like a hmm, dark, like
I would I would say so. Initiations,
yeah,
and same with initiations into beauty too. Sometimes things can be so beautiful;
mm,
it's initiation itself, and I think that's what we as human beings potentially what we could be initiating ourselves into if we let ourselves is the initiation of how incredible life actually is, and the gift that it actually is to be a human being instead of trying to ascend out of it. And so my
oh, that
latest
was on my
exploration,
list.
yeah,
That was on
my
my
latest
list of
exploration is
questions.
into the experience of being human and enjoying it, enjoying
Mm.
these challenging times, enjoying, you know, sharing a message, enjoying making an impact, enjoying meeting people, enjoying experiences, even enjoying the challenges to see who we can become and what solutions can be provided. The universe always seems to provide um, in its own unique way, and
Mm.
it reminds me, actually, I was listening to a talk today by Jordan Peterson, and he talked a lot about what makes strength. And strength, being strong is important. Like physical strength is something that's really, can be seen as strong, and that can only go so far. But then in the end, if there's strength without wisdom and strength without empathy, then in the end, that then the other it was actually, I think it was chimpanzees or monkeys or something, and I'm not saying as well as he did, but they end up getting rid of that particular leader. So,
Mm.
but if the leader has empathy and the leader has like is caring and looks after the next generation, then that leader is then sustainable and leaves more of a legacy. And but then ultimately, the study actually concluded that the ability to have vision and the ability to speak is actually strength.
Yeah.
So that's what communicates strength for generations to come is having a vision and being able to communicate that vision. And so for me, this is the exploration into my own strength, so I can support others in finding their strength that they already have within themselves. And that means getting clear about their vision, and then so they can speak their vision. And I don't just mean speak like speaking. I mean speaking it with actions. It's easy. We can also speak with our projects, with our where we put our money, where we put our time. And this is really the time for us, in order to initiate ourselves into a beautiful world that works. Then we need to live our visions and speak our visions and actually implement those visions. And this is the time for action and implementation, so we can create the impact we're actually here for.
Awesome. So in terms of being able to speak our vision, um, how important is like the sales side of it, being able to enroll and bring in other people into what we're doing?
Well, even the word sales itself,
I
I
know
think
it
it's
felt
important.
so weird.
Yeah, no, sales is a term that has a lot of connotations to it, a lot of charge
Yep.
around it. Sometimes the best salespeople, the number one attribute of sales is actually just love. And so if we can sell or influence or create a vision that's so powerful that people want to be a part of it, then
Yep.
they can discover their own place in that vision. And through that, then many visions will be co-created inside of that experience. But I think it's beyond our comprehension to know how it's all supposed to work out. And that's the one thing I've had to come to terms with is I actually don't know. All I do know is to play my part, and others play their part, and it seems to work. But it's beyond me. It's kind of it's a mystery of how it all
Yep.
works, and I'm okay with that mystery. I used to not be, and it caused me a lot of
Yep.
anxiety. I had to solve the mystery of this universe, but now I'm just kind of enjoying the mystery itself.
Yeah. I really hear what you're saying with that, because it's like the goals and the achievement and the drive, like it goes for a while and it's a beautiful experience, like the lessons, the learning, the growth. But then you reach a point where there is something else, and it's a part of as you said, not knowing, like that, not knowing what's coming, or I don't know, having a
Yeah.
guidance, or how would you describe that?
Well,
Like there's a
my friend called me the other day, and he's done a lot of work on himself. He's very successful in what he does, and he says he is, because him and I, some of the best conversations I have are just walks in the forest, you know.
yeah,
And I was taking a walk with him in the forest, and and we were talking about. He said, "I'm just not as driven anymore," you know, and he's achieved quite a bit. And he's like, "I feel like I'm losing my drive." I said, "I know what you mean. It's dying. That this drive is dying." And I said, "Well, what's coming after the death of the drive? What happens next?" And I said, "Maybe it's Drive 2.0, but it's coming from inspiration versus a void." I know for the beginning of my life, a lot of what drove me was a void, not feeling like I was enough as a person, or I wasn't worthy. So I drove to go find that worthiness outside of myself. I drove to achieve certain things to be recognized. And then when I realized that I was coming from a void, then I felt driveless. I was not moving forward. I just, the drive stopped. It was like a fire that just dissipated, and I was like, well, who am I? What am I doing? And then there was nothing to do. And then as I sat in there, that there was nothing to do. Then what bubbled up was inspiration, and a Drive 2.0, which is I think it's a longer burning flame, and I think it's
yeah,
sustainable. And it's a thicker piece of wood that burns
yeah,
longer versus many entrepreneurs I've worked with, they burn out.
yeah. Um, It's really interesting as you describe that. There's actually a lot more harmony in it, like a harmony into a collective experience or to the earth. And it's sort of, I don't know how we describe that, but the collective is creating something together that it feels more in flow. Is
Yeah,
like,
and the flow state, you know, there's a book called Stealing Fire, which talks about the flow state and how important it is for executives. And more and more right now, executives are studying the flow state. You know, there's been massive research projects in Google about the flow state, accessing the flow state, because the flow state, you can actually access a more of a timeless space, and and from that timeless space, you can get more done in a shorter period of time, and and more happens. Time is actually measured by the amount of information that passes through in that period of time. You know, if a billion years passes, but only one piece of information or two pieces of information happen, it's not much time pass. But yet, if you notice right now, it feels like time is speeding up, and that's because a lot more is happening in a short period of time.
yeah,
And so this is our greatest opportunity right now to get more done in less time, and that's why it feels like time is speeding up. So it's quite a special time right now.
yeah. Um, so as like time's speeding up and it's like check the amount, as you said, the amount of information, the amount of change seems to be escalating. Like
Yeah.
how do we cope with that? But like not cope in a reactive way, but like how do we lean into the skill sets needed to thrive in that world? That
Action.
kind of, yeah.
Uh, re, re, you can't steer a parked car. So many people are, there's things they need to do that they know they need to do, not because someone tells them they need to do, but things they need to do, like, um, you know, start the businesses they want to start, or they want to take their company from, you know, 10 million revenue to 15 million revenue, and that means that they have to have a conversation with someone they might be scared to have a conversation with. That means but yet fear stops them. So this is the opportunity right now to let opportunity drive you versus fear, and this is what's shifting, is people can make choices from opportunity versus fear now, and from doing that comes action, and then massive action, and then and through that, like it's almost like we're patterns. Like let's say we're like snowflakes, like patterns, right?
Yeah.
And the more we can express that pattern through our words and our actions, the more we become the pattern, and part of actually the experience of having a fulfilled life is actually expressing that pattern in its full capacity, and that's where I find fulfillment happens and joy happens and life happens, versus just trying to ascend and feel like you're one with the universe instead of action. So it's a combination, ebb and flow of action I found for myself. And I don't know, that's just for me. I could be totally off, but I'm my own explorer, and that's what I've discovered. And I know that people out there, if they're in action towards their destiny, towards their destiny, because their destiny is always being revealed, and potentiality is never really finished. We're always expressing our potential continuously. But it's through that expression of potential that we discover fulfillment, and action is a necessary ingredient inside of that. So one of the things I love to share is how supporting people getting clear about where they are to where they want to go, and they can actually follow those steps, because there's a lot of people that feel unclear about what to do next, and if I can just provide them a space by letting them be a little bit, by having them be okay with being a bit confused. That confusion is what's necessary to birth something new. And in my rooms, when I work with people, I like to discover really what they want. Often people never take the time to ask, what would you like? And so for the people listening to this, you might want to ask yourself, what is it you want? And by asking yourself what you want, then you're able to, hello?
Yeah, hey. All good here. Can you
I
see
can
us,
hear my own
Jeff?
voice.
You can hear your
Yeah, I
own
can see it.
voice?
Can you see me?
Yeah, we're all good.
Okay,
Still
good.
going
Keep going.
here. Yeah, you keep going.
Okay, I heard like, all right, we're good. Woo! So essentially what I'm saying is that, and I love Facebook.
So you're getting an echo. Just pull your headphones out and pop them back in. See if that helps.
Okay, let's see. We good?
Yeah, that works for me. How are you going?
That worked for me, and that's a lot of life, you know. Sometimes things don't work, and you just got to keep going, and it's a good little lesson in that.
Yep. Sam has evolved tech support skills. That's me.
That was
Uh,
awesome. Wow, I
I
had no
know.
idea about that. Everyone should,
Yep.
if there's anything you take away from this, it's the headphone trick. That was legend.
Pull it out and plug it back in. That is technology 101. Just
I agree. I totally agree. It's always good. It's like turn it off and on, and that's what you do. And that's what you do in life, you know. Sometimes you just gotta have a
yeah.
good sleep, wake up, rest, and do it again.
Yeah. I had a few questions really come up through that section. You're talking about um, the most important thing in this changing world is action, and I know a lot of that fear that stops people is taking the wrong action or like not expressing the pattern that they want to.
Right.
How do you tell if someone who's in action is expressing that pattern, or if like how do you
Sometimes I
tell?
don't. Sometimes I don't, and sometimes it's not for me to say. Um, that I can tell for myself. I can only tell you for myself that when I'm expressing actions that are not consistent, I usually feel heavier.
Yep.
It does, and you know, it's a lot like when you, for myself, it's like when I share an uncomfortable truth with myself, I feel freer. When I share an uncomfortable truth, sometimes it's necessary to say to move someone forward. Yeah,
Yep.
they feel freer. I feel freer. It's those tough conversations. I remember having a conversation with my father once, and it was an investment deal I lost some money on, and some other partners lost some money on, and I had to have like a tough conversation with those other partners. And he goes, you know, son, your ability to have fierce, uncomfortable conversations is directly proportional to how successful you'll be and how much freedom you'll have in your life. And so I like, sometimes it's good to have uncomfortable conversations with myself and others.
Those things. So that's the reason. Yeah, that making people uncomfortable. And yes, it is really potent transformation. I've seen it time and time again. But it's amazing when you go into that, like the whole room just goes silent because, like, you start saying the stuff that people don't say.
Yeah, it's necessary sometimes. But I also found, and what's fascinating is people are not comfortable with being comfortable. And when people feel safe, it's unsafe for people. And I find that kind of interesting because sometimes people have trauma that's linked to to being safe.
Yeah.
One time they were safe in their life, and all of a sudden something happens. So sometimes when we actually are in a space where it's safe to actually, where it's safe and people feel safe, then what's between them and feeling safe in themselves seems to come up, and that's a necessary thing to have happen, uh,
Yeah.
so that they can actually start to rewire their brains, rewire their neurology, and to feel safe, being safe again. And then when they finally feel safe in their bodies again, then when they can listen to their bodies and their intuition again, then they get their compass back, their guiding North Star. And when they get their guiding North Star again, they get clarity. And from that clarity, they get inspiration. And with that inspiration comes action.
I think that actually answered one of the questions I had here. I was around if people in a real survival mode around money, it can sometimes start to be familiar and safe, but also a bit of a trauma in their body. And that's sort of what you're talking about, that it's safer to be in that like in that way of being rather than start to create something different.
Yeah, it's a good point, Sam. I mean, maintaining identity coherence is really important. I know you studied a lot about family systems work, and maintaining identity coherence is a very important thing for a human being. And sometimes people have built an identity around suffering. They built an identity around being hard work. They built an identity around struggle, and that identity is very safe for them. And when that identity gets threatened through success, they feel guilty. They feel shameful. They feel like something's wrong. When actually, what they need to do is keep going. Oftentimes, people start to get success in their business and what they do in what they're doing, and that success feels uncomfortable for them. So what they do is they stop doing what works. Oftentimes they find that they're doing something that works in their business, and then they stop doing it. And so what I like to ask the question of is, what are you doing that's working in your life? okay, let's do more of that. Let's amplify that. Let's 10x that thing.
Yeah.
Whereas many people, when they start getting the success they want, they actually take their foot off the gas because they feel unsafe, because they're entering a different ecosystem. They now have to have different friends, different conversations, tougher conversations, and they're
Yeah.
not feeling safe around that. Or they come from families where making a certain level, let's say that family never made over $500,000 a year, then all of a sudden, when they start making over $500,000 a year, they're not comfortable, and people have this need to be in rapport with their family system. Like, for example, if their father never made more than $500,000 a year, but then they start making more than $500,000 a year, then they don't feel like they belong with their father anymore at unconscious levels. So they start sabotaging their success in order to stay in rapport with their father. Bert Hellinger, as you know, says, in a family of thieves, the one who doesn't steal feels guilty. In a world of mediocrity, the people who live life, an incredible life or remarkable life, can't help but feel a little bit guilty. So what they do is they sabotage that because they want to feel like they belong.
So what do you do if you notice you're doing that? Like, it's like just
You
action,
usually
or
want
like, what are we doing?
you
It's
usually want
like,
to get you usually typically spend it. I have a friend of mine who does a great program named Kate, and she has a program called Proximity is Power, and you know, it's a great name. It actually reminds me that the people you surround yourself with can make a big difference. So if you surround yourself with people that relate to you as as your vision and hold you to accountable to that, then as you start to, if you start to sabotage that, they hold you to a different account. Whereas if you spend time with people who relate to the identity of being not good enough or struggling, then they actually will try to maintain that with you, because their identity gets threatened as you get more successul. And when I say success, I don't mean success by everyday standards. I mean success as in enjoying your life, having fun, and of course, it's okay to make money. It's okay to make the impact. But inside of making impact, inside of making money, you might lose a few friends, and you just got to keep going. And people won't like you, and that's just the way it goes.
yeah. Do you think it's possible to fix the problems with money and the divides of wealth and resources in the world?
Yes.
Sorry, that was a tangent question, but like,
No, I do think
can
it's
we all come
possible.
out of that consciousness, that threat and fear around money and whatever?
Um, yeah, absolutely. But each of us have to take responsibility for our own. So I'm
Yeah.
just doing my best to take responsibility for um,
Yep.
my own relationship to that, and it's not easy. And through doing that, I know that it'll have a ripple effect on other people, and then those people will impact other people. It's like I guess you could say it's like I guess it's like the butterfly effect or a starfish. You know, it just kind of keeps impacting one after another after another.
Dominoes.
Yeah, you know, my friend Kate, actually Kat said the universe is like a perfect accounting system. When we do what's in our highest good for us, the universe takes into account everyone else's highest good. So in that moment, it might not be conducive to spend time with that particular person, but it's in your highest good not to. So you don't spend time with that person, and that person might be upset. But in the end, it's for their highest good too. They just might not see it yet.
Yeah. Um, for sure. Kind of related to this question, because this is a big question that does sit on my mind, and I know a lot of more conscious, aware people, or people with a lot of empathy, are look out at the world and they're like, but we have a lot of our indigenous people without water. We have the Amazon. We have issues where people are impacted because of the lack of resources and the lack of things. Like, how do we um, how do we bridge the gap with those kind of issues?
We bridge that gap within ourselves, and we no longer make those systems the enemy,
Yeah,
and and we heal our relationship with ourselves, and look at getting back to the basics for ourselves, which is the gift of being alive, and making sure the people around us are looked after, and it will have a ripple effect. one after another, and ultimately it will get taken care of. So versus oftentimes people are distracting themselves with huge worldly issues, but some people it is their role. But some people
Yeah.
are always thinking about those worldly issues and blaming the worldly issues for why they're not actually moving forward in their life, and they're using it as a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And instead of actually just making your life becoming the expression that you're here to become, and through that, trusting that everything will do a part. Nature is an incredible example of that. You know, the forest has so many working parts, and we are a part of nature. We're not separate from it. So if we just do our part, I saw this little video of ants crossing. There was a little bridge, and they kind of like were so intelligent. They actually kind of helped each other by getting across it. One person was below, one ant was below, another ant was below, and they built a bridge and they all crossed. But each one of the ants did their little part, you know, and it was so intelligent. And so, but if these ants were worried, like, oh, your part is the wrong part, you shouldn't be doing that, and then they were arguing with each other, they never would have crossed the bridge.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of people that look at what separates us in this world, and
Yeah.
it's so easy. Now it's time to, like, I guess, look at what unifies us, and what unifies us is love. And now, but that's a little bit cheesy. Love, right? But ultimately, it is all there is. And through increased self-awareness and increased empathy, then we can actually take proper actions. But that empathy is not just with other people; it's within ourselves. And in order to build a gentler world, we have to become gentler with ourselves. In order to see a more beautiful world, we have to see ourselves as beautiful. And when we do that, then we can naturally take the actions more conducive to what's within ourselves, and we can listen to our own intuition again. And by listening to our own intuition again, we can take the proper actions that we don't need to think about. They just happen. They're intuitional moves. They're inspirational moves. They're not instructed by the mind. They're instructed by the heart. And through those actions that birth from the heart, then everything seems to work more in the flow. Do I understand how it totally works? No, I'm sure someone can explain it better. But I can tell you that when I have trust in myself, and trust in this moment, and trust in my own intuition, and if I'm listening to my intuition for my next actions, then I'm not so worried about the future. I'm no longer living in the future. I'm living in the now. And by living in the now, I'm able to actually act accordingly to what's actually happening versus my trauma. And often people are taking action from fear, that's from unresolved trauma in their bodies and their minds. And by excavating that trauma within ourselves, then we're able to listen to our feelings and our emotions again. And those feelings and those emotions are our access to this moment. Whereas a lot of the spiritual movement and a lot of what's happening is a lot of spiritual bypassing, and I know I've done it myself. Where it's about ascending and avoiding the trauma that we actually feel, and by willingly choosing to go into the darkness within ourselves, and the loneliness and the frustration and even the rage or the anger, and feeling that, we can excavate it, and then we can access here, right now, and then the right instructions and the right things to do in that moment seem to happen. I don't mean right or wrong. I mean, like, what is in harmony with what's supposed to happen next for that is beyond my comprehension.
Just gonna sit with that for a sec, because that was really incredible. Um, I love how you're able to share these concepts and bring them around into such, like, just present connection every day.
Thank you.
And like, I would say for sure, like, your intuition, your capacity to feel and sense what's needed is 100%, like, it's one of your superpowers.
And we all have a superpower, right? And each of us have
No,
a
you're the
superpower,
only
right?
one.
Yeah, we all have a beautiful superpower, and it's our job to discover what that superpower is. And to some
Yeah.
people, it's not a superpower. Just some people, some people, my quote superpower is it can be construed as something completely different, and that's okay. I'm just going to do my best to be myself, and I ask others to do the same. But not everyone's going to like our quote superpowers, right?
For sure, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I've seen you in moments where your superpower does not make anyone happy.
No, it doesn't make even
Even
me.
me.
Yeah, everyone. You know, we're all
Like, what
learning,
the fuck
and
is he
I
doing?
screw up so much sometimes, you know, and that's okay with me. And I hope it's okay for other people, and I can be an example of that sometimes, that I can be so imperfect sometimes, and far from
Yeah. Well,
far
tell
from
us that
understanding
kind
this
of
one.
stuff. What are you terrible at?
Oh, the list is huge. I don't even know where to begin. I'm
Oh, come
terrible at
on.
so many things. What I'm really good at is being terrible at a lot of things. And but the thing I'm really terrible at is hmm, definitely cooking. Not so good at that. I'm just horrible at that.
I thought you had you had the toast down. You
I
got
got toast
smooth.
down.
Yeah.
I got this macaroni thing I'm working on, and then someone brought it to my attention that it's a packet macaroni, and I felt deflated and sad about that. And then I was like, yeah, but I add onions to it, okay? And come on, this is not just like this is me adding
You
things,
have
you know.
to
So I got
chop
the
them up, right?
yeah,
You
I
have to
gotta chop
chop
them
the
up and
onions.
I
That's
chop
like
onions. It
steps.
stings my eyes. I go through like
It's
an
commitment.
initiation experience through that, and that's quite intense for me. And then I saute them. I throw it in the vegan macaroni, and it's just pretty freaking amazing actually. But you know what I gotta say is that I think it was Jordan Peterson talks about how it's you gotta like actually it was Carl Jung. He says we have to be okay with being a fool to begin with. And you know I'm a fool at cooking, and one day I probably won't be, but I'm willing to go through that if I want to get good at cooking. And a lot of people have a message to share and a business to build or an inflection point to grow their business, and they got to be willing to not know in order to go forward. And I really love working with people who are okay with they're committed, but they're okay with not knowing. And
Yeah.
and when we put the combination of people that are committed and they're okay with not knowing about then man, amazing miracles happen. And and when I say miracles, I mean miracles become normal, so we don't even need to call them miracles anymore. It's just life becomes more in flow, and that's what I
Yeah.
love to teach and share is help people discover how to do that themselves.
So I have a question, and this is someone who I am a chronic overthinker at times, and I'm working on it. You know, I'm cutting it. I'm cutting right back. I'm minimalizing my thinking, but if someone's committed but they're not clear, what the fuck are they committed to? Like, what are they committed to?
Being unclear, generally. I mean, I once I had an audience member. I said, is there? They were really like committed to be unclear, and I said, is there anything I can say? Is there anything I can say to change your mind? And they thought about it, and they thought about it, and they're like, no. I'm like, well, then what the hell are you doing here? So we have to be one of the presuppositions that has to be there for people to have the life they want is to be willing to not know, and to be a bit of a fool at times to go to where they want to go next. So often I'm a fool, and it's a humble place to be so that you can actually grow and learn.
I certainly remember quite a few foolish moments at
And there
events.
will be more. There will be
There will
more,
be
I'm sure.
more. I've kind of reached a point where I've given up, like wondering what will happen some days.
I have two,
It's
Sam.
like,
So
okay,
together we could just discover it.
yes,
I'm with
okay,
you. That's why I'm so grateful
it's
for you
Jeff.
because you're willing to discover with me and see how it
Yeah,
unfolds.
it's like, is this going to stay appropriate? I have no clue. That's my
Probably
only
not.
answer.
Probably not.
Yeah,
And for the people like listening here, what is it that you want going forward, and are you willing to be a fool to get that, to learn it? Are you willing
yeah,
to not know in order to get it? Are you willing to get rejected to get it? Are you willing to face the ridicule to get that? And I don't mean just to get it, I mean to become it. Is your
yeah,
vision so vivid and so clear that you're willing to feel the gap between where you are in your life and actually that vision, and then face the fact that there's a gap, and it's very challenging for people to face that gap. And when they do face that gap, they realize, oh, I need to take some responsibility in my life, and be accountable to myself and be accountable to my action or non-actions, and actually need to do something about it. And when they do something about it, it's incredible because because it not only inspires them, it inspires the people around them. And some people are so inspired they can't handle it and they leave them. And that's just the way it goes. And some people are so inspired they support you.
Yeah. It's very inspiring.
Thank you.
I lost track. I was reading my list of questions. I'm like,
No,
he's
go.
still
This is
talking.
great. I'm having
And he's
fun. This is
paused.
good.
I need to do my awkward silence of like,
I am
what
going
I
to drink
say.
some water because it's just like, this is
It's a good idea.
intense.
Let's just have a water break. Everyone,
Water break. Everyone should drink water. Stay hydrated. It's not. It's like a sport.
So, how important is water, Jeff?
Well, it's life. There's a great woman named Sharisa who was talking about all the catastrophes that are happening in water, and she was at a talk that we were just doing, that you were doing, called around the Amazon, actually, and it was great to work with her because she has such a heart, a huge heart, and a wonderful connection to the land, and a wonderful connection to water itself, and she so deeply cares. And it's so important for her to communicate that message in a clear, concise way where people can actually take inspired action from that. And she had the courage to get up and stand. And I worked with her to support her in being as clear as possible and as impactful as possible. And her true impact was able to be felt by the people around her because actually what happens is people discover that clarity is more of an act of omitting information. So sometimes people add information to be more clear, when in fact they should take away words at times to be more clear. So sometimes less is more.
Yep. For sure. That's one of my downfalls. I'm amazing at adding in clarity words. I love when you do those, you get people up in to share their message, and then you actually support them with things that seem really small when you're watching him, like, coaching or giving direction to people as they speak and share. They seem so small, but the overall impact on the audience experience and being able to receive that person and their truth and the fullness of who they are and what they stand for it gets my heart every time seeing that. It's actually seeing their essence being able to stand in its strength when you do that.
Yeah, actually, it's something I really care about as well, and so it touches my heart quite a bit, and that's why I love doing it so much. And I find that I look for the smallest adjustments that need to be made to make the biggest changes in someone's expression or in their business. I love working with unconventional leaders in especially in unconventional experiences, and I find that I just look for the smallest little changes, and instead of the big changes that need to happen, because the big changes are often distractions from the small changes that need to happen. And so oftentimes people will put very big chunk sizes of changes they need to change in our life in order to distract them from just small, tiny changes they need to make. And so I'll put my attention to small changes to make, because those are often the highest leverage point for the biggest adjustments that happen for influence.
Yeah. Okay, that's a so if someone if you were starting out again, right, at the beginning of whether you're 13 or whatever age again, and you're starting out at life, business, influence, like many people out there might be feeling that they're starting coaching, starting speaking, starting business. Where are the most important places to put your attention?
Getting clear about what you want in your vision.
Yeah.
And then feeling the gap between where you are and having a really frank, honest conversation with yourself about how there's probably a lack of action being taken. People often say they want these things in their life, but they're not willing to go to do the actions that are necessary to do it. And I find myself more and more, I don't mind working with people that are starting, but so many people that are starting have been starting for too long. And they're just telling stories to themselves that they're going to start one day. And I talk to people like, oh, you want to start a business? Okay, great. And it's been a year, they're still working on a website. My favorite people to work with are people that are already moving and they have momentum, and then all they need to do is make some adjustments to do that. And But then there are incredible people who have a vision and they're willing to do the work to get there and have that happen, and willing to not have it all together, and they're willing to fail forward. And
Yeah.
those people that are starting are incredible. The people that are starting have been starting for years that aren't going to start, just don't bother working with me.
For sure. I guess one thing I've learned, and it's come through a lot of the like listening to you, and I don't know that you've ever described it this way, but this is how I look at it now, is that looking at starting a new, whether it's a new direction in my business, starting a new business or whatever, is that I, it's coming, as you said, where you want. Like, you're talking about that growth point sometimes for people from 100K to 500K. What's it take to grow that level of their business? But if you always start at the beginning to design it to be reaching 500, a million, 5 million, 10 million,
Yeah.
like you start from there. You don't start with, I would like to make 100K.
Right. You'll source the actions from the vision itself,
Yeah.
standing in the future, looking back. Tim Ferriss actually does. He'll go into startups and he'll say, okay, let's say the startup's doing 20 million and they want to do 50 million in
Yeah.
5 years or so. And he says, okay, 50 million, fine, you're at 20 million, and he'll ask the question, okay, what do you need to do to get to 50 million? They'll come up with their answers. They're doing 20 million, and then he'll say, okay, how would you? And he knows that it's probably very difficult to do, but the question forces a great answer. He says, okay, if you want to go from 20 million to 50 million, and you have to now, how would you do it in 6 months? And the brain is forced to come up with answers. So if you're making 100, you want to make 500,000, how would you do that in 3 months? And a solution to that would be, how would you provide like $100,000 worth of value and then go sell it for $5,000? And that is something that people would buy. So ask what kind of value you can bring to the world. And I know for myself that I can spend a weekend with an executive, with 10 other executives, that executive and 10 others, and in that weekend, even though I spent only 2 days with that particular team, they can create millions of dollars in value. It wasn't how much time I spent. It was the adjustments that got made that they take action on. Whereas people that generally have a different kind of mindset, they think, oh, you only spent 2 days, so not much can happen. Their relationship with time and money is stagnant, I guess, or you could say is needs to be updated. It could be updated, and it's not how much time you spend. It's what gets done in that period of time and what gets implemented.
Yeah. What becomes
I think
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
for sure. For sure. For sure. Well, I think we're just one or two fun, lighter questions, and then we'll wrap up soon. This has been
Sounds fun.
so good. I'm loving this. Could probably go for another hour, but what do you do for fun?
This. Have inspiring conversations, unconventional conversations with people like you who are willing to ask interesting questions. So I love this. What I do for fun is I do this kind of stuff. I also I love getting. One of my favorite things to do is like we'll go to Costa Rica with executives and have amazing conversations about leadership and about self-awareness, and I get to spend time with so many inspiring people. And then also, occasionally, there might be we'll go sailing, or we'll go on a helicopter and do weird stuff, or have weird dinners, or have a fire with interesting music, and I just love how weird life can get, And
What's
so for
weird for
me,
you?
what's weird? What's weird is when things aren't weird. That's weird for me. I love weird is the etymology of the word weird is to pave our own path. So I love paving our own path. I love when things are unconventional, so we can finally make unconventional things conventional. And what I want to be conventional is empathy and self-awareness, and I want to match purpose with profits, and I want to have more profits that look after the planet and look after people. I want all that to be together, and not I want, and that's what we're doing, and so that's fun for me. That's really fun.
Um, and what's your favorite song at the moment?
My favorite what?
Song.
You know, today there's a lot of trees around, and there's those what are those bugs? The llama? I think they're called llamas. They're like
Cicadas.
what are they called?
Cicadas.
Yeah, cicadas, lakotas. That's another thing. And cicadas, like there were all these cicadas that were going, "Meow," and they were so loud, and I don't know, I found that kind of interesting. That's funny. That's nice music to me. I also, yeah, I think that's the music I like is the sound of nature, but that's weird for some people. I also like I like good. Lately, I don't know. I've been listening to like all kinds of stuff. You know, weird tracks from Burning Man to like I was listening to even like Nelly the other day. I listen to so much weird stuff now. I was like, what is going on? Life is just so full of. I used to be so hung up on not listening to certain things, like, but now I'm just like having fun.
Yeah.
I said Lakota. It's not. It's just, oh man, where's my mind? All
So
right,
that's
good.
perfectly imperfect. Um, well, I think that's a really incredible note to leave this call on tonight. And for those that have been listening and jumping on, and really, I can just feel so much love and energy coming through to us from the audience and the comments that have come through. Just been saying hi and like thank you. It's been really beautiful. Um, I just really love to invite you guys that Jeff is. I have talked Jeff into. We're doing an event on Saturday, and it's actually going to be live streamed. So Jeff is my spiritual animal. I can't wait to connect with you.
I'll be your spirit
Oh,
animal.
be a spirit animal. Yes.
Yay!
So, but that event is actually going to be live streamed because I do know there are so many people that either can't make the event on the day, they're not on the Gold Coast, or that they for whatever reason, and so we are setting this one up that you can jump on, um, and be part of as much of the day as possible because I know what a gift it has been to be in rooms with Jeff, and I'd love more people to experience that.
Yeah,
I've got one final
let's do it.
question,
Oh,
almost.
let's go. What is it?
Okay, what's your spirit vegetable?
Oh, oh my gosh! I've never thought about that. A spirit vegetable. Oh man, maybe it's broccoli, because it confronts me. Broccoli is a very confronting vegetable for me, and it makes me challenge myself to eat my greens. So I usually like to have greens in powder form, but when there's broccoli in front of me, I gotta eat it, you know. And, and it pushes me to find my my strength and my determination within myself to eat that broccoli, and through that courage I find nourishment. So broccoli is my spirit vegetable.
Oh, it's the best answer ever.
If I
I
said
love how.
cucumber, it'd just be too weird, you know. But for some people, it's cucumber, but for me, it's broccoli.
Yeah. I would have guessed avocados, but no, it's all good. I really appreciate the reasons for that. I suppose technically it's a fruit. Technically, the
Yeah,
avocado is a
avocado is a
fruit.
fruit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, avocado's a fruit.
So
People
anyway,
should just come if they want to come. They should come. It'll be fun. And I'm so grateful you're hosting the event, Sam. And it'll be a lot of fun.
it surely will. Thanks, Jeff. So grateful for you, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Sam. Take care.
Thanks
Bye. Bye,
everyone for
everybody.
jumping on. Bye.
See you. Bye.